My precious child, I know you did not plan to stop here. You were moving. You were doing that thing you do, filling the seconds, keeping the mind occupied, giving your hands something to hold on to because stillness sometimes costs more than you have right now. And then something made you stop. Something pulled your attention the way a name called in a crowded room makes you turn even before you know you are turning. That pull was not the algorithm. That was not coincidence. That was a summons. There are 4 million people in motion on screens right now. Out of all of them, 9 were directed here in this exact window of time. 8 have already passed through. 7 did not slow down long enough for what I am carrying to land. 1 closed out before the weight of it reached them. You are the 9th. The last one I positioned to receive what I have been holding since the early hours of this morning, when I moved over your life and changed everything that had legal claim to your future. Before I tell you what that was, I need you to do something. Type the number 888 in the comments right now, not because it is a magic number, but because the act of your hands moving, the act of choosing to participate rather than just observe, is the first declaration. It is the difference between watching a door open and actually walking through it. You are not leaving a comment. You are making a statement in a language that moves things. You are saying, I am here. I am ready. I am the one you are speaking to. Type 888. I will wait. Now come with me, because I have to show you something. I have to take you back to a moment you have not talked about with anyone, not your pastor, not your closest friend, not the person who sleeps beside you. The moment that lives in a compartment you have learned to keep sealed, because taking it out and looking at it is too expensive, and you have already spent more than you have. I saw you in that moment. You were sitting somewhere alone, and the weight of the gap between where you are and where you believed you would be by now came down on you all at once. Not gradually, all at once, like something structural giving way. And you had to be very still, hold yourself very carefully, because if you moved, something was going to come out of you that you were not ready to explain. You have been doing that calculation for a long time, the gap calculation. I know the exact words it runs in your head, where I thought I would be versus where I actually am. How many years I have been faithful, how many prayers I have prayed, and then the quiet devastating arithmetic of what has and has not changed. I have heard that calculation in you more times than you have consciously run it. You do not say any of this out loud. That is the part that exhausts you most. Not the circumstances themselves, as heavy as they are, but the performance around them. The version of you that answers fine. The version that shows up to the church service and lifts your hands and means it. Because the faith is real, even when the feeling that your faith is doing anything has gone completely cold. I need you to hear me on this. The faith was never the problem. The coldness in your prayers was not a failure of your belief. It was a symptom of something being done to your belief from the outside. There is a difference, and everything I am about to tell you depends on you understanding that difference. If any of this is landing somewhere specific in you, somewhere that feels less like reading and more like being known, hit the like button right now, not for any count, as a declaration to yourself and to me, because I am watching this moment. Yes, that is me. I am ready for what comes next. Your tears have been counted. I want you to sit with that before I keep going. Not noted, not approximately observed, counted. There is a specific number assigned to every tear you have, cried in seasons where you believed no one was watching, and that number is 538,241. Every single one witnessed with the same attention a parent gives to a child who is hurt and does not know how to say where it hurts. The wordless ones, the ones in the car before you went inside, the ones in the shower when getting up felt like lifting something too heavy, the ones that came at the wrong moment, because grief and exhaustion do not schedule themselves around convenience. None of them were ever random. Every one of them was known. And here is what has felt like silence in response to them. I was not ignoring you. I was refusing to give you something before the moment in which receiving it would actually establish you rather than overwhelm you. You have been interpreting the silence as rejection. It was preparation. But I also need to tell you something that is going to change how you understand the specific texture of these past years. Not all of what you have walked through was preparation. Some of it was interference. There was a meeting called specifically about your life. The ones who called it knew your name. They knew your history. They knew the specific faith that runs in your family line, the kind that does not die easily. And they knew that direct opposition would not work on you because you are the kind of person who gets up. So they did not come at you directly. They came at the structure around you, the systems your life runs on, slowly, patiently, in ways designed to feel like ordinary hardship rather than targeted attack. I want to name what they actually did. 4 were assigned to your financial life. Their mandate was not to destroy your income. That would have been too obvious. Their mandate was to make sure the money always moved but never settled, to keep the unexpected expense arriving precisely at the moment you had started to build a small margin, to make sure the math, no matter how carefully you did it, never quite cleared. They were not trying to make you poor. They were trying to make you permanently tired, because a person who is tired enough, for long enough, learns to lower their expectations quietly and stop asking for anything at all. 3 were assigned to your sleep. They were working the hours between 2 and 4 in the morning, the window where the mind is most permeable, where fatigue and fear combine to turn a concern into a catastrophe. They knew which worry to surface and when. They knew the bill that frightened you most and made sure it surfaced in that silence, in the dark when you had no resources left to hold it rationally. They were not random anxious thoughts. They were delivered with timing. 2 were assigned to the space between you and the people you love. They were not creating dramatic conflict. Drama gets addressed. What they were creating was distance, the kind that grows in the gaps between what you meant to say and what came out. Between the version of you that shows up when you are whole and the version that has been showing up for years, which is present but not quite there, which the people who love you have been sensing without knowing how to name it. 2 were assigned to your prayer life. Their assignment was the coldness. They were not trying to stop your prayers. They were trying to drain them of expectation, so they engineered the long stretch of unanswered prayer. The silence that began to feel less like a delay and more like an answer. They let you keep going to church. They let you keep the motions. What they were removing, slowly and deliberately, was the interior experience of being in contact with me. They were trying to turn your faith from a living thing into a performance of a living thing. And some days, if you are honest with yourself, it has felt like exactly that. And others were watching for every time a door started to open for you. Those were the ones responsible for the timing of every unexpected obstacle, every sudden expense, every complication that arrived precisely when you could least afford another thing. They had a file. They had studied you. They had a strategy and they had been running it for years. Comment the phrase, "I see it right now," if what I am describing has a shape in your life, if any part of this has the texture of something real, something you have been living inside of without the language for it until right now. Because here is what happened this morning. At 2:19, I brought a case to its final close. There was a legal matter that had been running against your life for years, argued across dimensions you cannot see. The agreement that had given that operation access to your life, rooted in covenants made in generations before you were born, covenants you did not make and did not choose, was brought before me, and I ruled. I revoked their permission. I dissolved the contract. I terminated the assignment with no right of appeal and no possibility of reinstatement. And the first thing I did after that ruling was speak your name out loud in a dimension where names carry the full weight of every person who will ever bear them. Then I issued a mandate to recover what was blocked, to reverse what was delayed, to restore what was deliberately depleted, to open what was sealed. That mandate is in motion right now. While you are reading this, I have already set the recovery moving. What was held is already being released toward you. And before you let that old trained skepticism step in to build the case against your own miracle, I need you to ask yourself something. What if the skepticism itself is part of what was assigned? What if the voice that says this could not be for me is not wisdom but interference? What if it has been trained into you over years of precisely timed disappointment, and its only remaining job is to make you close the one door that is actually standing open? Your spirit already knows. That is why something in you stopped here when you were not planning to stop. Let your spirit lead. Now I want to tell you what I have watched happen to people who received what I am releasing to you right now. A woman named Celeste had been carrying a financial weight for 4 years she had never spoken about in full to any single person, because the full picture was too humiliating to assemble in front of another human being. She had been tithing faithfully for 11 years, praying specifically, doing every practical step she knew, and the wall did not move. The day I brought her to a message like this one, she typed those numbers with the hands of someone who had stopped believing anything would happen, but decided to participate anyway. The way you reach into a dark room not because you expect to find something, but because not reaching feels worse. 61 hours later, a company she had interviewed with 14 months earlier and completely forgotten called to offer her a role at $79,000 with a signing amount of $8,400. She says she does not have a word for what those 61 hours felt like from the inside. A man named Raymond had not spoken to his father in 9 years, not because of a dramatic event, because of the accumulation of smaller things that never got addressed until the distance became the relationship. The day I reached Raymond through a message like this one, something about what the assignment had done to his relationships hit him in a place that had been sealed for a long time. He typed the numbers. 44 hours later, his father sent a message that said only, "I have been thinking about you for days, and I felt like I needed to reach out." That message became a phone call. That call became the beginning of something Raymond had stopped expecting to rebuild. He says the gap was never as permanent as it felt. Something had been maintaining it from the outside. When that something lost its permission, the gap began closing on its own. A woman named Adaez, raising a child alone, had been watching her daughter move through a health situation doctors could describe but not resolve. 18 months of appointments, 18 months of holding herself together in front of her daughter during the day, and unraveling at night where her daughter could not see. The evening I brought Adaez to what I am releasing right now. She typed the numbers with tears already running, sitting alone in her kitchen after her daughter had gone to sleep. 56 hours later, her daughter came downstairs different, not slightly improved, different. The thing that had been there for 18 months was simply not there the same way. Adaez says some things do not fit inside the language available to explain them. If any of these stories carry the shape of something you recognize, not the specific details, but the interior experience, the long seasons, the faithfulness in the face of silence, the way hope gets more expensive, the longer the delay goes on, then share what I am releasing right now with one person before you keep reading. I positioned you to carry what I am speaking here to that specific person at the moment they were ready to receive it. That was arranged by me. And for those of you who have been carrying a Celeste season long enough that you have started to believe it might just be your life, I want you to look at the pinned comment at the top of this page. There is a seed principle that runs through every story of provision I have ever authored. Something released from an open hand comes back multiplied. I am not asking you to give to a person. I am asking you to notice whether the instruction to open your hand is landing in your spirit right now. Because if it is, that is not coincidence. That is me speaking to the part of you that already knows what obedience looks like before the mind catches up. Let your hand be open. Now I want to speak over you specifically. Not a general prayer. Not language that could belong to anyone. Words released over the exact shape of what you have been carrying. Over the finances, I speak the end of the treadmill. I speak over the structure that has kept the money moving but never settling, and I declare that structure dismantled. I speak the return of what was held. I speak sources of income you have not yet discovered. I speak favor so specific, it will feel like someone who has been watching you for years, finally stepping forward to say, I have been waiting for this moment. I speak the math clearing. I speak margin where there has only ever been edge. Over the sleep, I speak over the 2 a.m. window. I speak peace into the quality of the dark in your room at night, so that when everything goes quiet, what rises is not the familiar inventory of everything unresolved, but something that feels closer to being held. I speak rest that actually repairs. I speak mornings that feel like beginning something rather than resuming something. Over the relationships, I speak the clearing of what was planted. I speak over the specific gap between you and the person whose name just came into your mind. I speak the words into your mouth you have not known how to form. I speak understanding into ears that have been hearing you wrong. I speak the return of connection that was thin for reasons neither of you fully understood because the reasons were not entirely between you. Over the prayers, I speak reactivation into what has gone mechanical. I speak the interior experience of contact back into the moments when you reach out. I speak the end of the ceiling. I speak the return of expectation, the posture of someone who believes they are in relationship with me and that I move. That posture was being deliberately flattened. It is being restored over the identity. I speak the end of the comparison running quietly in the background of your thoughts, measuring your life against others and finding it lacking. That comparison was being fed from the outside. It was not a natural instinct. It was a tool. It has lost its material. I speak over you the clear knowledge of your specific value, not relative to anyone else's trajectory, but as a thing in itself, and to the part of you carrying the secret weight, the one you have not named out loud to anyone, the anger at the silence, the moments you wondered if you had been abandoned, the times you performed faith on the outside while something on the inside was screaming. Or, worse, going quiet in a way that frightened you. You were not wrong to feel it. You were not failing. That internal storm was the evidence of how much you actually believed, how unwilling the truest part of you was. To settle for the performance of faith without the substance, that part of you was never the problem. That part was proof. Now I want you to picture 2 mornings, 6 months from today. The first morning you wake up and the first thing your mind does is the calculation, the same one it has been running every morning. What is in the account? What is due? What is the smallest survivable version of the next few weeks? And at some point that morning you might remember this moment. You might remember something in you recognizing what was being described and wanting to receive it. And then something else stepping in, the familiar voice, the trained skepticism, the thing that said, "Do not get your hopes up again." And you listened. And the morning after that was the same, the second morning. You wake up and the calculation is not the first thing your mind reaches for. Something has been shifting for 6 months, and the shift has been cumulative. And 6 months in the right direction feels like becoming someone slightly but undeniably different. The math might still happen, but it happens in a different register, not with the dread that has been coating everything. And there are things in your life that were not there 6 months ago. Some of them are things you can point to specifically. Some are interior shifts harder to name, but completely real. And when someone asks how you are, you tell them the true answer, which no longer costs more than you have. One of those mornings is the morning you wake up to 6 months from now. The only variable between them is what you do in this moment. Type 888 in the comments right now if you have not already. Let that be the first act of the second morning. Hit the like button. That is your signal flare to me because I am watching this moment, and I see every act of participation as agreement with what I am releasing. Share what I am releasing right now with one person, the person whose face just appeared in your mind as I said that. You did not randomly think of that person. I put that face in your mind just now. What you send them in the next 60 seconds might be the message they point to for the rest of their life as the moment something changed. Subscribe and turn on every notification. What I am releasing right now is the beginning of a sequence. What I bring tomorrow is the next layer of what I am opening over your life today. You cannot receive tomorrow's layer if you are not present for it. Stay. Comment the exact phrase, "I receive what is mine." Not "I hope for it," not "I want it someday." I receive it present tense. That is the declaration of someone who understands that what is being released must be received, that receiving is not passive, that it requires you to open something that has been closed. The act of typing those words is the opening, and for those of you who feel the pull, the specific interior instruction that something should be released from your hand as an act of faith right now, do not dismiss that. The pinned comment has what you need. The seed principle is not a transaction. It is the posture of an open hand, which is the only posture capable of receiving what is being placed into it. You know who you are as you read this. Let your hand be open before the provision arrives, not after. There is one more thing I need you to know. I need to tell you about the version of you that has been underneath all of this, not the version you perform, not the version assembled for people who do not know the full story, not the version running on empty, showing up out of discipline when everything else is depleted, the version underneath. For every day of this long season, for every morning of the gap calculation, for every night of ceiling prayers, that version of you has been making a choice. The choice to continue, the choice not to stop believing even when the belief felt like it was running on fumes, the choice to keep showing up even when showing up cost more than it gave back. That choice, made that many times in conditions that difficult, is not ordinary. What is coming for your life is not small. If it were small, the preparation would not have needed to be this long. The weight of what is being prepared for you required exactly the kind of foundation these years have been building. You continued without the information that would have made continuing easier, and that continuation, precisely because it was not easy, is what makes you ready to carry what is coming. The surprise is not outside of you. The surprise is what you discover about what has already been built inside you when the interference ends and you can finally see clearly what has been there the whole time. You were never the problem. The silence was never rejection. The delay was never abandonment. I saw you every moment with the same quality of attention I give to everything I love, which does not reduce and does not drift. I saw you and I counted every tear and I knew every prayer, and I prepared you and I positioned you for exactly this moment, the one you are in right now. Pay attention to the next 72 hours, not with anxiety, with expectation, because I am executing what I decreed this morning, and I am moving through ordinary channels in ways that will only look like coincidence to people who were not present for this moment. A call from a number you do not recognize, a message from someone you had not heard from, a thought that surfaces with unusual clarity and points in a direction you had not been considering, a door that has been closed a long time that one day you simply try and it is open. None of that will be accidental. All of it will be me. Do not miss me moving because you have trained yourself not to expect me to move. Type 888. Hit like. Share with the one person whose face appeared in your mind. Comment. I receive what is mine. Check the pinned comment if the hand-opening instruction is still speaking to you. And be here tomorrow because what starts today does not end today. This is not the end of something. This is where something begins. Go.